This is EC521 Group 8. Our project is a lab that demonstrates attacks against SSL and TLS. Our lab demonstrates 3 attacks, 2 against the HTTPS connection and 1 against an implementation bug in OpenSSL. We wanted to demonstrate more interesting attacks, however, most of the attacks can't be accomplished in 20 minutes and require a powerful adversary. For example, Freak is an attack that forces a client to accept an export grade RSA key that can be factored in around 7.5 hours. Lucky 13 is a timing side channel attack that takes around 64 hours to complete. Drown is a cross-protocol attack that uses SSL version 2 as an oracle to reveal parts of the master key. And it requires 8 hours to complete on EC2 servers, and there's a special version of the attack that can be completed in a minute against servers using a vulnerable version of OpenSSL. In order to complete the lab, it's important to understand the HTTPS connection. The client initiates the connection by sending a client hello that includes a list of cipher suites that the client supports. The server responds with a server hello, indicating its choice of cipher suite along with its public key and certificate. The client then generates a pre-master key that can be used to derive the master key and encrypts it using the server's public key and sends it along with a request to start using symmetric key encryption. The server decrypts the pre-master key and uses it to generate the symmetric key and starts encrypting messages using the symmetric key. Heartbleed is a vulnerability in OpenSSL's implementation of the Heartbeat protocol, which was introduced as a TLS extension in TLS version 1.2 as a way to check if the connection is still alive. This XKD comic illustrates how the Heartbleed bug works. Well, in the Heartbeat protocol, the client asks the server to respond with a specific message of a specified length if it's still alive. What if the specified length is different from the actual message length? Well, in the specification, the server is supposed to ignore the message. However, OpenSSL does not check for that case and instead allocates a buffer in heap memory of the specified length. The memory might still contain sensitive data such as private keys, session keys, or confidential data such as credit card information that was encrypted.
The first step, we need to download the SSL strip into our computer, but we already downloaded this, so we just go to the folder and we can see it's already there. And we just need to simply unzip it first. And then we go to the SSL strips folder and you can see some initial files, they're already there. And we just using some kind of Python command to run this setup.python to install the SSL strip into our computer. Yeah, and then we need to go to run it. So the first step is to set your machine into forwarding mode using echoes. Yeah, that's it. And then second step, we need to set up IP tables using this one to just redirect HTTP traffic to the SSL strip, so we can using SSL strip to catch these informations. So we will set our destination port as 80, which presents HTTP, and to some like random redirect to some random ports. In this tutorial, we just use 1000. Yeah, that's it. And the final step, we just like to open SSL strip to listening to this port. Yeah, it's working. So we will go to our browser. You may know that in some tutorials, the final step is using ARPS proof to just like to redirect the targeted IP address to yours, that so you can listen to it. But in this one, due to we have like several computers to present as man in the middle, so we just like using proxies in the browser to do these things, not using IPS proof. As you can see here, it sets, and then we just go run these things. We input Gmail here, and you will go to see Gmail's website, and you can notice that in Gmail's website there's no lock to present HTTPS in your URL, and there's some kind of part you can recognize you have been hacked. In this tutorial, we just hack myself to do that, and as I just input username and password login, it doesn't redirect right because we already hack this part and redirect your information to us. So to get this information, we just go to see SSL-strip.log. Yeah, and there's so many things there, and you can find here, as you can see, it's the email address we just input. And for the password one, and you can see here the password is you can't find us, you can't find me. So, and let's just try whether we just get right information or not. We just switch back to the normal mode and run these things again. And you can see the little green lock in the URL, and just try these things again. And we just copy and paste the password we get. Yeah, and that's it. That means
Now we will see how supposedly secure HTTPS connection can be compromised with the man-in-the-middle attack that uses transparent proxy. I will demonstrate not only can we read or eavesdrop on the HTTPS connection, we can also modify the client-initiated requests on the fly. As you can see on the slide, following is a simple demonstration of how the tool that we'll be using today, MITM proxy, intercepts the HTTP communication. It intercepts the client-initiated request and redirects it to the server. In doing so, it can read it, it can store all the client requests for playing them in future against the server, or it can modify the requests on the fly. Intercepting an HTTPS communication is a little more complicated than that. To intercept an HTTPS connection, the MITM proxy has to play a dual role. It plays the role of a server when the client initiates an SSL handshake, and it plays the role of a client and initiates an SSL handshake with the secure server. By doing so, now it has the information from the client and the server for every request that is made from the client to the secure server. It decrypts all the requests coming from the client and passes it on in an encrypted fashion to the server, and the response that it receives from the server, it encrypts it and passes it further to the client. So from the client point of view, it never knows that there is a man in the middle. Neither the server ever doubts that it is not talking to a real client, but rather getting intercepted by an attacker. Having seen the schematic working of how this operation happens, now let's look at a practical example. Here I have a server which is hosting a web server which is HTTP based, and a secure server which is listening on a customized port. And for the sake of simplicity, I've also made a man-in-the-middle proxy by not using ARP cache or DNS poisoning, which is non-trivial, but by doing a simple IP table based rules. So to see that, what I've done is I've set up these rules by which any traffic that is supposed to be coming for the HTTPS server gets redirected to the proxy, and any traffic that is supposed to be coming for HTTP server goes to the proxy again. That is the man in the middle. Right now it is deactivated. We will activate soon when we are going to demonstrate it. Now let's look at the web server. So this is the default page of the web server, and there is one more page. As you can see, if I click on that link, the URL changes and we go to a different page. This will be useful in the future. And let's look at the HTTP version of this. Okay, so in our case it is raising a warning, but for a legitimate server with a certificate which has been assigned by trusted authorities, it will not raise such exceptions. So in our case we will accept it, and this is a secure site. As you can see, it's being hosted. Now let's activate man in the middle. For that we'll have to remove a rule. Now this activates man in the middle. To start man in the middle, we'll start it in the transparent mode. That means it is not ubiquitous to the client or the server, using this flag. Okay, so now man in the middle proxy is listening to all the requests. Let's see how it does. So when I go to the basic HTTP server, you see nothing is happening here because I think this page was served from the cache. So let's refresh it. As soon as I refresh it, you see this request was intercepted by man in the middle proxy. To see the details, this is how you navigate through the man in the middle proxy menu, is that you press enter on the message where you see these arrows, and then you use tab to move. When you do tab, it moves from request to response to details. There is another way to look at the connections, is by coming to the screen, and to come to the screen you have to press Q to get out, like enter to get in, Q to get out, and E will show you the event log of how the connections are happening. Now let's look at how whether can we modify a request on the fly. So to do that we have to press I, which is an interception filter, which we can use a lot of regular expressions to intercept a specific type of filters. MITM proxy is a Python based solution, so a lot of Python regex is usable here. We'll go with the basic one, which is the star. Now it will intercept every client connection that comes. So let's try one more. Orange means it is waiting for our input, the attacker's input, or the man in the middle input. So let's do that. Now I can edit this request, and my options are, if I press E, I can change the cookies, the query, path, URL, whatever I wish. So let's do a simple thing, change the URL, and I wish this page to go to this URL, and then I have to press A for the response to go. And as you see, I have changed the URL here, but here nothing has changed. So from client's point of view, nothing changed, but I changed the query. Being an attacker in the middle, I modified the request, and you can see the result here. Now let's see if we can redo this in an HTTPS website, which is supposedly secure. Okay, so now advanced, add exception, confirm security exception, and then let's do this. So we intercepted a secure communication and we forwarded the response coming from the server. Let's see if we can modify this request. So here also we can toggle and look at the details. This is the certificate sent by the server to the man in the middle. Let's see if this was the same thing that happened on the client side. To do that, as you remember, we saved the certificates both the times. And these are the two certificates. Clearly, the certificate that we received the second time was not the same as that we had received the first time when man in the middle was not invoked. That means these two certificates are different. That means we are not talking to the same server as we would like to believe that we were talking to an original server. Okay, let's try to now modify the request. To do that, we have the interception filter on. Let's send the query again. Press enter, E, URL U, and let's change it R to d2.html. And if I press A, I have been brought to the new page. That means I successfully intercepted an HTTPS communication, and I also modify the request. HTTPS is not secure after all, as much as we thought. And what's more, I can see the response that came from the server, which I passed on then to the client. What are the implications of what we just saw? A little food for thought. What we just saw is an obvious threat that yes, we can be hacked if we are trying to use secure sites using vulnerable networks like public Wi-Fi in a coffee shop, but there are far-reaching privacy issues. We take comfort in the thought that services like Google Search, Gmail, WhatsApp are all end-to-end encrypted, but corporations and governments can set up these transparent proxies which we will not know that we are going through or our communication is passing through, and they can clearly eavesdrop on it and store any form of communication that they want. I would like to close this on that thought. Thank you.